on that because some of the information is not what is actually presented to you. It's what you go and search and find. And if you were only presented with a certain number of options and you could only choose from those, of course you could make a very good case to say I wasn't given much choice and that's why and no wonder my decision. But if part of what you could do is to conduct a search on yourself and the research of some sort and go find the information, then you do have a choice to some extent. We can only agree that it can only become it could only be a better choice or a better quality choice had you had even more options. But then I think we're going to run into a regression right there if that information has to be complete in the sense that it has to be all the information that ever existed, that will ever exist. There's going to be a regression right there. So I don't want to go to that ground.
Yes, I'm definitely with you there, Manonja. Thank you for that, for your contribution there. So our discussion this afternoon in my time zone, obviously, is no knowledge, no choice. Our careers, religions, foods are pre-selected. So yes, I agree with you. I think we are finding common ground. So you can never have all the information, especially if the information was accumulated over various lifetimes. It would take you a very long time to. Some people even dedicate their whole lives to a certain discipline and never really know everything. But that is obviously not practical to know everything about everything. So, but the point is, you really, for a choice to qualify, for me, a choice to qualify to be a choice, you need to have at least two options. Then you can say you have a choice, you made a choice, and but then the quality of your choice would then be dependent on how much you know about the the two options or the three, or as the options expand. And then we also, especially in the age we live in, we also have a responsibility to expand our minds in terms of expanding our options, because we do have that luxury which people in the previous generations did not have. That's why today the discussions that Christians are having, for example, today, they could not have them 20 years ago. They just never had those discussions because it was not the environment, the information was not there, the knowledge had not been more readily available as it is today. So yes, all I'm saying is two options minimum to qualify for a choice. And then, so let me let Philly speak before she cuts off again.
I'm not going to cut off this time. I'm so sorry.
All right, cool.
I apologize. A call came through earlier. I'm so sorry.
All right, cool.
And it totally cut me off at the wrong time. So I wanted to say this analogy that you're making and saying for you, a choice doesn't qualify to be a choice unless it's two options or more. I think not everything always works out that way or fits like a glove whenever you're making comparisons. And I think in this case, the one that you're making when it comes to religion and things of spirituality and that people make, I think it doesn't quite fit as perfectly as it might fit with other things. And the reason I say that is because it's possible for somebody to, for example, if I grew up in an African Zulu family and I get a calling, as there are people that believe in callings and ancestors and connecting with, their ancestors and practicing spirituality in that way. There are people who are gifted in that sense. It works for them. And if it's something that they choose from very early on and they stick to it, it's still a choice. Because it's a choice between not being spiritual and being spiritual. It's not a choice between being any other religion or any other thing versus what they are, but it's a choice not being a spiritual person and just being nothing versus being a spiritual person. It doesn't have to be a choice where you have to pit religions against each other or different cultures against each other for you to say, well, I picked this one. It was my choice. Sometimes it's just a choice between not being anything and the choice of being something. And so this is what I'm saying, this analogy you're making. So when people say, I'm Christian, that's my choice, or I'm this, or whatever I am, it's still a choice. It still is.
All right, Philly, thank you for that. So now you've raised some questions there. I've got questions for you regarding that. Because then my question would be, let's say someone chooses to be a Muslim, and then they don't know anything about Christianity, Islam, and all, especially the Christianity and Judaism. I'm sorry, yeah. The question, so like for the Falasha Jews in Ethiopia or from Ethiopia that now live in Israel, if they chose Judaism, the question would be, how did they choose it if they do not know anything about Islam and about Christianity? Because that's basically what I am trying to understand. How did they? I would understand if they say, look, I studied all of them, I understand, and this one works better for me, and therefore I made my choice. So that's what I'm trying to understand. So if you can help me out with that, Miss Billy.
You're funny. No, but it's exactly what I just explained. It's like, okay, for example, I'm Christian. I don't have to go to like Islamic countries to experience their religion for me to know that this choice of Christianity that I've made is the right choice for me. And this is why that I'm saying this analogy that you're making, this one of pitting things against each other and then picking one out of the many, the way you're defining a choice, it doesn't work with things of spirituality and people's beliefs. It doesn't work like that. When it comes to people's beliefs, it's not about testing out all the beliefs and traditions and paths that you could possibly test before you can say, you know what, I've tried them all out and this is the best one. It's not a pair of pants that you have to fit so that you find the one that fits perfectly for you. That's not what it is. And so this is why I keep saying, you keep wanting to say there should be many options and you should pick one. And I'm saying that doesn't work. In this case, when it comes to matters of spirituality, it doesn't work like that. You don't make a choice in that manner. So I made the example of somebody that grows up in an African traditional family. They don't see the calling. They've never experienced any other thing, and they choose to say, you know what? I've received the calling. I can feel it. I see it. I dream it. I experience it, and so I'm making the choice to follow this path. I don't have to test out others.
All right. So now, Philly, if I may ask, how did you choose to be a Christian? How did you become a Christian? Are your parents Christian?
Hi, Miss P.
Just
you want to grill me?
I want to.
Asking me, you want to grill me? I know you.
No, I will not grill you. Don't worry.
What?
Do I have a bad reputation of grilling people? I do not. I'm a nice person.
Well, I'm not.
I'm just asking. I just want.
You grill, but politely. Like you deliver it like a shit sandwich. You always have like a sandwich shit in between and then another piece of bread on top. And then it looks pretty, but you're still grilling.
All right, okay. So yeah, help me. Help me. I will, because I will explain. Perhaps I will share a bit of my path. But yeah, explain to me how you became a Christian. Like honestly.
How I became
Don't sugarcoat. Don't be biased. Just tell it how it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will. How I became a Christian. Well, first of all, I think it's as boring as the story of many other Christians out there.
Okay.
I was raised in a family that was Christian. Well,
Okay.
half Christian and half like into like African traditional blah blah blah. I don't know what you call it.
Okay.
So growing up, because it was always a mixture of that in my family, I think there came a time in my life where I wanted something. I wanted to follow a path. I wanted to have something solid that I would say I believe in, and it's mine. It's completely mine.
Yeah.
But I knew one thing though. I knew that I wanted it to be within the field, well, within the religion of Christianity. But now it was just a matter of choosing how I go about practicing that Christianity, because like you probably discussed this when you started out, there's so many variations of what Christianity is today. Yeah. So for me, I still wanted to be Christian, but it was just it was a choice of how I'm going to practice it.
Why?
Because there's so many.
Why did you want to be Christian? Like, honestly.
Well, because I've had, honest answer, I've had experiences, and I think it's carried me. I think it's been good for me up to today. It's been good for me. It's been working out for me. It's been helping me. It's been, just basically my anchor. And so, because it works for me, I wanted to stay in it.
Oh,
and I didn't see any reason to leave or try out anything else. And so, I wanted to improve within the religion of Christianity and not outside of it, because for me, it's worked out. It works pretty well for me.
Okay, that's true. Well, for it obviously to work for you, you'd have to first get into it. So I wanted to know the before part, before you got in, before you ever experienced it.
It's exactly what you expect. The boring. I grew up in a family that practiced it, so my foundation was basically that.
Did you go like for an altar call? Did they make an altar call?
No.
Okay.
Sorry, no, none of that. No. I think when I was 18 or 19, I can't remember exactly. I think 18 or 19. I wanted to explore the Christian religion like deeper, and so I actually went out and tried out different churches, and I visited different churches and different ways that it is practiced, until I found something that fit like a glove for me. And I was like, this is home. This is where I want to be. I'm learning. I'm growing. It makes sense.
Oh, so you made that decision when you were 18, or when did you say?
I think I was 18 or 19, and no, I didn't there was no altar call or anything. It was just, I was studying with people, and it finally made sense, and I was finally reading and studying and discovering things, and so I was like, okay.
Also, you never had the Lord's Prayer, the salvation prayer, where you confess.
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, like what? Like stand in front of people and confess stuff and then say I'm Christian now?
Yeah, like the whole born again stuff. Okay, so you come from a different background.
I don't know. I'm not in that denomination.
Right. That's interesting. Okay.
But if I may come in here, maybe just the speaker. Technically, I think the technical argument that you're making, host, is correct. For there to be a choice, there has to be more than one option, because how would you even say that you're choosing if there isn't any other option? So technically that is correct. But then I think what the other speaker is saying as well is problematic, and I'll tell you in one sense. Remember when we started, I said that you could actually make this the statement I made. I think Christianity chose me. I never got to choose it. But I also made sort of defended that by saying, well, the truthfulness of a religion could not be based on how one got to be part of it. All right. So you and I think this is why we need to be very careful, because it gets a bit technical there, because you could want to link that if I had no option, then the legitimacy or the truthfulness of what I believe could be in question. One could make that case, but it's not self-evident that it's a correct injunction to make that because you didn't get to choose it, then it's not true or it's illegitimate. You know, I think this is where we need to be very careful. So you could, for me, I think you could actually accept or concede that I didn't get to choose this because I did not have any other options to compare it with. But nonetheless, I'm not arguing, and this is also very important. I'm not arguing that if you demonstrated utility of a religion, you're also demonstrating the truthfulness of the legitimacy of the religion. But I think what my sister saying is that, well, this is what I found to be working, which is okay, you know. If you find something to be working, it's fine. But that's also not an argument. That's not an objective argument towards the truthfulness of it. Because if you want to have that conversation, you need to have that conversation. You know, if you want to have a conversation or a debate on whether Christianity is true or any other world religions are true, it's a different conversation to have. But sometimes I think we are sort of, I would say, tempted to want to argue the utility of the religion and its truthfulness based on its utility. And it's a bit problematic. But sometimes we also want to say that we want to defend, and this is what I'm hearing my sister almost wanting to do. She's wanting to defend, she's wanting to say that, you know, the issue of choice doesn't work in that way with regard to when it comes to religion. But she's not making that argument to say, but how? Why is it not working in the same way with regard to religion? Because choice, technically, is choice. You need to be presented with more than one option for you to compare the option that you have and choose. And yeah, but let me pause here. I wanted to make an example of I think it's Dinesh who makes the observation that you find that there would be more people who believe in the theory of general relativity, for instance, who come from New York, than there is who come from, you know, there are people who believe in that theory who come from a different city, for instance, or state in the US. But that you have that kind of a situation. It's not an argument of the truthfulness of the theory itself. So the theory could still be true, even if the people who got to know it were not necessarily presented with other theories, you know. And it could still work and be scientifically accepted, even if when you got to know it, there were not other theories to actually compare it with, but you find that in itself it's self-sufficient and it's still working.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Manoncha, for that. So,
sorry,
yeah, Hancho, I know you are very notorious for disrupting. Hold on a minute. I just wanna. I'm talking about Hancho.
Okay,
Don't tell us it must be this and this and this and this. Don't.
No.
Relax, Philly. Relax, Billy. And now I just wanna hold on, Hajo. Just 2 seconds. I'll let you speak. All right. So guys, so we have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 speakers now. So if you have, they've been added on as a speaker. So if you wanna speak, just put up your hand. So now we'll let Hancho speak. Anyone that wants to speak after him, please put up your hand. Yeah, Hancho, go ahead.
Thank you, my brother.
Ahoy.
As always, thank you for your knowledge. Like a couple of months back, I saw you. Like you went to the market, and then they were giving you not the herbs, like to make what do you call it, imbies? They call it imbies or whatever.
Yeah.
The medicine is always there, and you went to Mozambique. Even now with the Egypt, you see a couple of years ago, I went to Egypt. Let me look at your profile picture quick. You see those sculptures?
Yeah.
I like it to have noses because when you go to the British Museum, all their noses are cut off.
Yeah.
But these are stories for another day, Mara. Thank you for hosting this space. Thank you for tagging me.
Yeah.
And then the subject matter is I read everything, but I'll summarize it. Our carriers and pre-selected. There was one of our black brothers. He was talking, was like, you know what? Even our criminals are low grade because why would you wanna get a gun or a knife, stab people, rob people, while you can be like an accountant where you can just steal and there's no like necessary risk. It's like our careers in being pre-selected, even the food that we eat. Like you see, we see Ubuntu is the greatest because it teaches us we all in this together. I am because you are, we are. But this new system of individualism, you think you have a choice. You think social media is free speech. You see pre-selected because I'm in China. There's no Twitter in China. They've got Weibo, they've got WeChat, whatever. And we should pat ourselves in the back because the biggest social network in the world, our second biggest, is WeChat, and Naspers owns 32%. That's good. But fuck them. Back to the topic. It's careers and being pre-selected. It's even where we live today, we don't want to live this. This has been chosen for us. Or you're going to live in Soshanguve, you're going to live in Soweto. When I researched, the other day, years back, I researched, Tembis. I was like, shit, they moved people to Tembis as well because I thought maybe because I'm from Soshanguve and Pumalang. I thought it happened there and in Soweto, but no. They move people everywhere. Even when I traced my tribe back to Pumalang, it's my family used to live in the mines. They moved them and moved them and moved them. And then we eventually moved to Joburg and all that history is lost. And now when I look at it, I'm like, damn, shit. They actually moved us. This thing of moving people and people moving for better opportunities is not new. So careers and pre-selected, of course, even religion. If you were in West Nigeria today, whatever, you'll probably be one part of Nigeria is Muslim, one part of Nigeria is Christian, and there's of course there's Juju. There's just like in South Africa, but it's all about race. Oh man, and the food. You see the food. You see I'll end it on the food. The GMO. The GMOs are bad. They are bad for us. We don't need them. And the craziest thing is us, let's keep it real, as black people, we eat pap. You see, we eat pap every day. I know some of my family members, they eat pap every day. Mara. Pap is good, Mara. The pap that we are getting now is bad because of the maize meal is redefined or whatever. But we don't own the food. The food they use GMOs to poison us.
the vegetables, GMOs. So, and we don't pre-select them, like pre-selected. Like, is it pre-selected? Of course it is. So, with like religion, food, careers, everything is pre-selected. Mara, we can select our own because we're more than powerful. Thank you.
Thank you, brother Hancho. I like your contributions, man. They're full of energy. So, in the order of hands up, we're gonna have Sine's bookshelf, and then we're gonna have Pochon. Excuse me if I'm not pronouncing your names properly. And then we'll have Philly. So, before Sine's bookshelf comes in, I just wanted to just summarize, touch on what Manoncho was saying. That because something was chosen for you does not necessarily mean, or where you did not have a choice does not mean it's bad or it lacks any truth in it. I agree. That is not that was not what I was actually directing my thought. I know a lot of people actually make that argument that because you were born in this country, therefore you are Christian. If you were born in the other one, therefore you should not be. That has never been my argument. I think it highlights something, but it's not a valid argument to say someone should not follow something because it was chosen for them. At the end of the day, most of the things that we follow, we were chosen for us by our parents. Most of our diet preferences. If you grew up eating certain foods, your 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 taste buds become accustomed to that, and therefore that becomes what you like. And when you if they take you to a country like China where they eat funny things, when you get homesick, that's the food that you grew up on that you actually start missing because that's what your ancestors gave you. And when we look at in terms of African culture, what our culture and our upbringing chose for us originally, not maize. For example, maize obviously was introduced by colonizers. Before that, we were eating millet, sorghum, and stuff. So but from the perspective of how Africans have lived in the past 2,000 years, the foods we ate before the introduction of colonialism, the food your parents introduced you and chose for you, those were good for us. Yes, we did not have a choice of eating spaghettis and rice and all this other stuff, but the choices they made for us were the best choices and still are. When you go, the proof is when you go to the health stores, everything that your millets, your sorghum, and all these things are now called superfoods, which now they are even encouraging all other races to eat. Basically, at the end of the day, the what our ancestors chose for us is the best life. So yeah, Sene's bookshelf, and then we're gonna have Pochon, and then Philly. You may unmute and speak.
Sanbona.
Yebo.
I'm not sure what else now I can say, Musoni. I hope I'm also pronouncing your name correctly because it is the food that you just spoke about right now, like towards the end, which I was going to speak on mainly because when I came on,
please do, because like I was so caught up in that as well. I was like, shit.
Yeah, Hancho.
Okay, awesome. That's what I want to talk about. When I came on, you guys were speaking on religion and stuff, and I was like, yo.
Wait. I agree to everything, but I'm out.
Okay. So, then it's fine. I'll speak. So the very first thing I wanted to say is that, yes, if you base your method of getting food on just shopping at the supermarket, then yes, you are going to have issues instead of widening. In terms of widening your choices, what I have done, and I understand that this is not possible for everybody, is that I converted the very little land that I have here, because I stay in a suburb very close to the city, but I still managed to turn my back, side, and front yard into a little vegetable, herb, flower, all of that garden. And the intention initially was just to have fresh herbs, because I love my fresh herbs, and they were quite expensive to get all the time, and then they would go dark or moldy or whatever in the fridge. But it ended up, the what was meant to be like a Smallingana thing just ended up, having a life of its own. And I think it lends itself back to what Umosoni was talking about, in that these are the choices that our ancestors made. I grew up for a certain part of my life with my grandmother, and this is what she taught me to do: to till the land, to work the land. Now, given my career, my actual profession, it also opened me up to other methods of doing things which other people would look at as regressive, but are actually regenerative. Because if we look at how agriculture is right now, it is, the GMOs that I think it was Hunch who mentioned it, all those things that are bad for the actual land. And I mean, what I can tell you without a doubt right now today, all of the land that is needed for people to be able to be fed worldwide has already been, sectioned off for agriculture. We don't need more land. But what is happening? More and more land is being, more and more forests are being chopped down they're being cleared in order to create more agricultural land. Where is the problem? It is because the land that we do have is being used for monocultures, and you can't take a forest, strip it down into monocultural, monocrop type situation, and then think that soil, which has its own ecosystem, its own biome. Soil is a biome on its own because of all the organisms that actually live in the soil and should, for the soil to be productive, and actually provide nutrients to your plants. And then think.
Sorry, can I add on to what you're saying? And Musoni speaks about this. It's like when you eat, you shit, you take the shit, reinvest it in the earth. But he talks about it like how they did not know how to do this. But even us, like I was just adding on to that, like I'm out.
Oh no! Oh, okay. No. But it's true. Everything it's all cyclical. Soil is actually a living organ in itself. There should be all manner of worms and little creepy crawlies in there, and it's
Hancho, hold on. Let her finish. Be a gentleman.
Okay. So beyond that, I think what we need. Okay, so let me go away from the soil. But what I need us to do as Africans is that we are the ones who need to research for our own selves what exactly comprises a good diet, a healthy diet. And I don't mean follow the USDA food pyramid, because that's been proven to actually be bad for us. Now, the next thing is, how do I then incorporate as many of those foods into my diet as possible? And the thing is, like Musoni was saying, a lot of these things are now being sold in health shops as superfoods, and there's a super high price tag on them. So if you can, why not them for yourself? If you can, otherwise, maybe your mom or your grandmother still has land and you can use that land to cultivate it, and maybe you can be the next supplier. I think it was Hancho who was saying that we all have that power. The next thing is stop supporting the people who are actually doing the bad stuff. I don't know. Like, this is as simple, this is as simply as I can put it. If a particular beef supplier is ill-treating their animals or is using the wrong means to dispose of waste, then you simply don't buy their product. If you see that a particular supermarket chain is importing more of their beef and chicken as opposed to supporting what's locally made, you boycott that supermarket chain. Me personally, I'm trying to stay away from the supermarket chains as much as possible, and that can sound a little bit hippie and whatever, but very simple things like, even if you go to your Checkers and your Woolies and whatever, but if you know that a particular thing is supposed to be in season at this time, buy it at that time. What are you doing expecting to get avocados in December? That's obviously not sustainable. When your citrus comes out, like
my sister, you see, in first world
Hancho.
There's no season. They get these things every time.
Yeah.
You can get mangoes. You can get. I live in a first world country.
Hancho, that's true, but that is what I am saying. We need to act against. That's happening even here. My local Checkers, which is by no means, like, this is not a wealthy area, by no means, but you can get your avocados whenever you want. Yes, they're going to be a little bit more pricier, but you're going to get them. My point is, for the producers to produce at a time outside of the actual seasons means that they're having to do it in an unsustainable way. And we need to not support that. The other thing is that a lot of people don't know how much food waste actually happens. Stuff that is thrown away, like a tomato is going to be thrown away because it simply has a blemish, so it won't be accepted by the markets, by the supermarkets. Things like that. But if it has a little
one more thing.
Yes.
Can I add on? I'll read my mark after this. You see Nigeria, They are the largest producers of tomatoes in Africa. This was in 2019. They were the largest producers of tomatoes in Africa.
Right.
And they were the largest exporters of tomato paste in 2019. They were the largest exporters of tomato paste, but they were the largest exporter of tomatoes. How does that make sense? But I was adding on to your thing there. But yeah.
Sorry, you said that they were the largest.
Yeah, I think you meant to.
Of tomato.
Yeah.
But they were the largest importers of tomato paste.
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what he meant to say.
Because the infrastructure is not there. Okay, but
there's no infrastructure to process these things or to make them more profitable. Actually,
it's because the infrastructure is not there to make
that the tomatoes, more because they haven't got the fridges, this and that,
And never mind the fridges, never mind the actual fridges. It's just the industrial capacity to make the value-added service products. So it could be tomato paste, it could be what you call them, the tomato relish that's bottled and all of that, anything tomato-related. The lack of infrastructure. Like I was saying, that's been South Africa's problem forever and a day. They produce the world's, like the most gold in the world, but the stuff is exported to both the British blah blah blahs and America, and then they must buy back the finished product at an unbelievable price. And this is the part I never understood. How is it that it is the buyer, when they're buying the gold, who can set the price, but when now we are buying back the finished product, it's the same seller who bought the buyer from the gold from.
I agree.
Yeah, Hancho. Hold on.
My sister, I agree. I don't understand it as well.
Hold on, Hancho. Hold on. We're gonna need to limit also speaking time. Yeah. Please. I've put Hancho's mic off for now. He'll come back as a speaker when Philly is speaking because he was defending him. All right, Sane,
No, guys, but
please continue.
I'm done. Whoever else would like to speak can carry on. My whole point was that in terms of the food especially, we have more power than we think we do. That's all.
All right. Thank you very much. And I'd like to say I envy you. You are where I am trying to get at.